Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Food Fundamentals for April 23rd. We're here hosting Hormel. So great to have people come in from the industry and kind of show us one thing to read about it, have our PowerPoints, totally other thing to have the hog laid out up here and see it put back together, and then talk about the different pieces and cuts and history of it, etc. Okay?
We need a couple volunteers, a couple brave souls. Come on up.
However many people want to volunteer. You guys can just throw in some gloves.
Put on some gloves and see if you can put this together the way it's supposed to go.
Little puzzle today. How are you guys doing, by the way? You guys all wake up excited to learn about hogs? Yeah? Very much so. Sounds like it. So I'm Max. This is Brad. We're with Hormel Foods, based out of the Denver office. Corporate is in Austin, Minnesota, a small town, which I'm sure you guys have never heard of, because I never heard of it until I started working for them. So, well, they're putting together the half hog carcass. You guys can kind of just watch it on the video screen. We'll kind of see if they know where to put it, and then we'll kind of go through it, break it down by each primal cut and the history behind it. And go ahead.
We're in food service sales, which means we call on restaurants, hotels, schools, hospitals, and try and get the customers to use our products as opposed to our competitors.
Heavy, aren't they? Does anyone have a guess of how many hogs we process a day? Just throw out some numbers. Anyone?
6 days a week.
6 days a week. How many hogs do we go through a day? 40,000 hogs a day we harvest. They come from all over. We do have a farm in Colorado. Also, they come from Nebraska and Wyoming, a majority of the hogs that we do process. Between two plants, one in Austin, Minnesota, and one in Fremont, Nebraska.
That's kind of a, yeah, that is, yeah, good job. You knew what that was. All right, well, I got to say, the morning people did a better job. But good shot, good try. So
Thanks, guys.
We'll kind of put it the way it goes. You got the ham in the right spot.
I'm going to trade feet.
This one goes down here. This one goes like that. This is trimmed from here. This goes here. That's about it.
Anyone know what this is? Sure.
That's the tail.
It's a pig's tail right there. If you ever wonder what a pig's tail looks like up close. You got it?
Okay, so here we are.
Everything?
And you guys kind of have a diagram there. You guys could have brought that up and cheated, actually. So this is the front. This is the back. The pigs come into the back of the plant. They're stunned. They're harvested. We don't say slaughtered. We say harvested. It's a nicer word. And then the first thing is the head is removed, and then they're sawed all the way through, kind of right through me this way would be. So this is half of a hog right here. The hogs weigh about 240 pounds when they come in, and they're about 6 months old. So again, the first cut would be through here like that, and then after that, this front part would be taken off right here. It's separated at the H bone, which is this bone right here. And then this part is sawed in half right here. This is a neck bone, which I don't even know exactly why they put this in. Really isn't used for much. Barbecue houses in the South might use this. There is quite a bit of meat on it, but there's a lot of bone and gristle and fat too. So they might be used whole, barbecued, and then put on a plate to serve for food. Or they might be trimmed out and boned out and then used to grind up to make sausage. Then this cut is made here, which separates the butt from the picnic, which is these two front parts right here. So this is a butt, and it's not in the back of the pig like you might think. It's actually in the front of the pig. So this would be a bone-in, skin-on commodity pork butt right here. And then when you take that, generally what happens with these is they're boned out. There's a really big bone that runs through here. Would be boned out and then defatted a little bit and then packed up for something like this. This is what we would sell. This is a commodity boneless pork butt, basically is what that is. Mostly used for barbecuing. The picnic, want to slide down a little bit?
Can you guys all see that now?
The picnic used to be used for hams. A lot of hams were made from picnics. You'll see picnic hams once in a while. Not a lot used or sold in this area. One of Hormel's most famous products, let's see if we can guess what it is made from this. We use about 90% of our picnics for this product. See if you can think of it. You guys might be too young for it.
Big in Hawaii.
You just said it. Spam. So imagine if we're taking 40,000 hogs a day, 6 days a week, and we use this big piece of meat to make Spam. We're making a lot of Spam. It's still sold really well. So,
has anyone ever had Spam? Is anyone petrified of ever trying it? Yeah? It's a lot better than you think, I'll tell you that. I never had it when I started working for Hormel. And of course, they take you up to Austin and you see a tour of the plant where the hogs go through, and then they take you out to this really nice restaurant and they put an appetizer in front of me. It's kind of like deep fried, looks like tater tots. I'm like, sure, why not? So I eat it, and they have like a Thousand Island dress. I'm like, this is really good. What is it? And it's deep fried Spam. And I had sworn to myself I would never try it. Like, my parents made it for me when I was younger. I was like, I couldn't put it in my mouth. And it's actually whatever way you dress it up, and if you deep fry it or put certain sauces on it, it can be really popular. It's a delicacy in a lot of countries. People eat it 3 times a day, 7 days a week. So, and this is what Hormel was built upon. So it is a good product, just a matter of dressing it up in certain ways for you to like it.
So picnic right here. The other thing that comes out of here is cushion meat, which is this muscle kind of right here on top. And that is used for carnitas, Mexican-style pork roast, basically, that's used for. And those are your primary uses out of the picnic. And then the butt. Max is going to go through the next primal, which is the most expensive one on the whole animal, and that's the loin here.
I will talk about the loin, but before that, the pig's foot. Hormel sells these, you'd be surprised, in 30-pound cases, fresh or frozen. A lot of it does go internationally, but we do use it for Hormel pickled pig's feet. You'll see that more in retail side, more grocery stores, King Soopers and stuff like that. But these are sold at a high rate, fresh and frozen. The difference between the front foot and the back foot is, if you notice the back foot up close, it's split. And that's because when the pig comes in to harvest, they get 2 metal hooks, grab them through the back feet, and hang them. And that's how they go through the plant. So for sanitary reasons, the back foot is not used at all. We just trash it. So a little more about, does anyone know what comes from the loin itself? You guys have all eaten them before.
Pork chops. Yep.
Pork chops. your tenderloin. So a lot of main center of the plate proteins is what's going to come from your big loin right here. Depending on where you cut the loin, you're going to have more in the centers, your center cut pork chops. If you go to a restaurant, just ask for a pork chop, mostly it's going to be there. So just moving on down, there's different names for the pork chops itself. Going off of that, you're going to have the sirloin meat, which is right at the end, more of the darker meat you're going to see. And that's going to be your sirloin pork chop. The more towards this side, your pork chop's going to have a large bone extending from it. So just differences in terms of those pork chops. Does anyone have any questions in regards to the pork chops that come from the loin? And then the tenderloin itself is going to be located. We already cut it off, right?
Yeah, it's right there.
This is going to be this piece of meat right here. So you notice it's very small. It runs about pound and a quarter average. Very tender meat. It's going to have that darker color. It's a very lean product. And I'm sure you guys all been served or cooked yourself tenderloin before. And that's going to be what we as Hormel sell a lot of is tenderloins. You'll see at the grocery store, there's a lot of pre-cooked ones. They're called Always Tender. So that's where we put a brine on it ourselves to give it a little more flavor. And then it's just a matter of warming it and cooking it however you want and then adding seasoning to it. Yeah, so that's going to come, if you guys notice right on here, this darker piece is where we cut off it earlier. So it kind of fits on.
Just sits right there.
Just sits right there. You want to talk about the belly?
And then if you rolled this up, you guys have probably worked with boneless pork loins, and that would come from this. Oh, that's right. That's where that came from. That would be this part right here that would peel out away from these bones that are back here. Anybody know what this is? I'm sorry? It's the vertebrae, but what cut of meat is it?
Chili's had a big commercial several years ago where there's a catchy song.
Baby back
ribs.
Yep, exactly. That's where your baby back rib is right here. These are called feather bones. These bones along the top, they would be sawed away and taken away. And then if you take the loin and scoop it out of there, then you'd have a rack of loin back or baby back ribs right there. So a lot of different products come from the loin. It's the most expensive part of the animal. This is where we're making our money pretty much, and the rest of the hogs kind of sold to get these. And then the other big piece of meat that we really get from this middle section right here is the belly, which is made into, anybody? Bellies? What are bellies used for? No.
What's your favorite product in the morning? Bacon.
Bacon.
Or dessert.
So what happens here is you've got the belly, and then this part right here, we've cut it up this morning, but it's called a spare rib. And basically, somebody comes along, and this is all done by hand with a U-shaped blade, kind of up and down like that, and they scoop that spare rib out of there, and it would all come in one piece like this. And I actually told the class this morning the wrong thing. They're weighted from 4.2 pounds and up. That'd be a heavy spare rib, or 4.2 pounds and down is a light or a medium spare rib. We used to do light, medium, and heavy, but the hogs are so big now, we're only doing medium and heavy spare ribs. And spare ribs can be barbecued whole. Not a lot of that going on, but primarily what happens is you would take the spare rib. Let me roll this up and out of the way. We take that. You would take that spare rib, which would look like that right there, cut it along here, trim this bottom part off. This is called a meaty brisket bone. And these can be barbecued whole. And we've got that right there. We actually make a product from this. This is fully cooked, naturally hardwood smoked, and then they're cut into sections like that.
Pass around so you guys can see.
Finger food. Basically, add barbecue sauce to them, heat them up, and serve them. Very easy to do. And then this end part would be trimmed off too. And now you've got, anybody know what this would be called? It's another rack of ribs, but it's not a baby back. Now, the spare ribs with the meaty brisket left on, and with the end on there too. So when you cut it and square it off like this, now it would be called a St. Louis rib. So loin ribs are generally way more expensive than St. Louis. Anybody guess why? Or come up with some thoughts or reasons why they might be? More meat on which? On the baby back? No, that's not it. It's a good thought, but that's not it. Anybody else? Basically, there's two big reasons. One is just for perception. People have the perception that the loin back is a better rib. I prefer to eat a St. Louis myself because these are more meaty actually. The bones are flatter, they're easier to eat, I think. But the biggest reason is every time you slaughter a hog, you get 2 of these, no matter what. You don't get 2 racks of loin ribs unless you're boning out this loin. So if we're going to make pork chops out of this, you don't get a rack of baby back ribs because they go into the pork chops. But every time we're getting a hog, we're getting 2 of these no matter what. So there's a lot more of these on the market. We talked a little bit about this morning, though. There's so many terms for meat that, you know what? I honestly don't know. It could come from anywhere of several different parts of the hog, honestly. A country rib.
Size-wise, it looks like the St. Louis, but I'm not positive. I don't think that the stickers.
They might. There's so many different old meat terms that are used that.
So going off those rib tips, with chicken prices being so high, especially with chicken wings, rib tips you'll see more starting to make kind of their entrance into the market. It's the ribs version of a chicken ring, so it's gonna be a lot cheaper. You'll see it a lot more times in like an appetizer basket with fries. Really, they're fattier products, so really great flavor. There is no bone; it's a little bit of gristle, so some people will eat it. Some people kind of stay away from it from the appearance, but it is really big in the South and starting to make more presence here with just chicken wing prices being so high in the market.
You know, Applebee's sells those riblets. They're really famous for that. That comes from the back part of the loin rib here, where these bones, these big bones, start to disappear. There's a couple, 3 feather bones in here, and that's kind of the section where those would be taken from. Somebody might even call that a country rib. You know, I don't know. We make a lot of money off this part too, the belly. So basically, if we were going to make this into bacon, this would be a skin-on commodity pork belly, this whole huge thing right here. And they're weight graded in 2-pound increments. So they go like 10 to 12 pounds, 12 to 14 pounds, 14 to 16 pounds. Then once they're graded, they'd be trimmed. Basically, we would cut off kind of all 4 sides to square it up a little bit. Which I'm not good at, obviously. Take the section off here.
And the person who separates the rib, so the spare rib from this belly in the plant, is the highest paid person in the plant besides a plant manager, because their job each time is to make sure if these spare ribs come off and aren't consistent every single time, they're no use to us, so we're losing money. So the person who has that scribe, like Brad was talking about, kind of a U shape with a saw in it that will go through each time, they're the highest paid person. So those are one of the most sought after jobs in the plant, in terms of money and the kind of prestige if you grew up in that kind of community.
Okay, so then these bellies, I've kind of squared it off here. I've trimmed a little bit from all 4 sides. Now they would go on a conveyor belt and they would go through a machine where needles would come down and basically poke it and pump the pickle or the brine, the cure, whatever you want to call it, into the belly. And the cure can have several things in it. It has preservatives in it. It has coloring agents. It has flavoring agents. It might have liquid smoke in it. Then they would come down the conveyor, and they would be basically put on a hook, so they hang like this. Then they get rolled into the smokehouse. And then the bellies would hang for however long they hang. Some of them, it's a really short period of time. Some of them, it's a really long period of time. The longer time they spend in the smokehouse, the more smoke they get in, the more expensive they are, the more high-end the bacon product is. Then they get taken down out of the smokehouse. Then they would go into a chill room where basically they would be frozen or tempered. And then they would come out looking like this right here. So these are bellies that have been smoked but not sliced. So basically we have bacon here in the whole belly that hasn't been cut yet. Then once they're tempered, put it over here. Once they're tempered, they would go into a mold where they'd basically be squared off again. So you can see how much smaller this is. And obviously I didn't trim this exact specification that this one would be, but they do shrink down. And the weight of it's quite a bit smaller than it would be when just coming off the animal like that. But yeah, that's the belly right there that's been smoked.
And you guys will notice bellies in general, you're going to start seeing a lot more restaurants, a lot of chefs, kind of find them fascinating because it's a blank canvas for them to work with. So you'll see a lot of people almost kind of braising them and then doing a glaze, like a bourbon glaze, like a brown sugar and like Jack Daniels or something like that. Because the belly itself, once you braise it and put some kind of glaze on it, very sweet, melts in your mouth. So a lot of places will serve that as an appetizer or something by itself, very sweet and rich.
You can see that. Now it's looking like bacon, right? So it's tempered, frozen, it's put into a mold, squared off again, and then it would go through the slicer, which is a huge industrial slicer, just slicing that bacon out. Then it would be packaged and sold. And we do bacon in a couple different ways. Probably the most common one that we do now is what we call laid out. It's laid out on parchment paper. You can actually cook it on that paper. You can take that paper and put it on a flat grill, or you can put it on a pan and throw it in an oven and actually cook right on top of that. Or a bulk pack bacon, which would basically be you slice this all and then just put it into a box where the pieces are all kind of still stuck together like that. And I would say we sell probably 70-30 laid out now as opposed to bulk. You pay about $0.10 a pound to have it laid out on parchment paper, but it's a lot easier for the customer to deal with. So that's your finished bacon right there.
And we smoke it from any flavor to a country brand, which is like corn cob smoked. We have a natural choice, which is an uncured bacon. So there's pretty much it goes from this product right here, a raw belly, to we form it and then send it off. So no nitrates, no preservatives, so it's a cleaner product, which some people are looking for in the market, to anywhere from maple pepper to sugar cured to pecan wood. So bacon is, it's not that traditional, just a regular piece of meat that you throw on a grill now. There's a lot of different flavors. I don't know if you guys ever work in the restaurant industry or will one day. It's a great way to drive up a price point on a plate and really keep customers coming back.
All right. Want to talk about the ham?
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions on bacon or anything that we've gone over so far? I know it's a lot of information. No questions at all? Like, what's everyone's favorite kind of bacon? Or is it just, does anyone prefer certain flavors? You guys don't eat meat?
I like
Hickory smoked?
I like the uncured.
Uncured?
Why do you like uncured?
Because I don't like the nitrates and preservatives in it.
What do you
I do choose Hormel a lot, though, or there's one other brand I forget the name of it, but it is certainly more expensive. But
What do you think of the flavor of the uncured?
it's definitely a simpler flavor than if it is cured. For sure.
Great word for it. Yep.
But it still tastes like pork belly, and it's awesome.
But when you remove those preservatives, you taste the meat and you taste the smoke and the salt, and what you don't taste is the preservatives that are loaded into most bacons. Gives it kind of a metallic or off flavor. My favorite bacon that we make, well, except for the pecan wood, which we have there, is our uncured natural, because it's just got a great flavor.
So how much is that then compared to your cured?
Very little. Very little. I'd say less than 0.5%. Yeah. It's gaining traction. I mean, our other natural products, we do a natural line of deli meats that are really doing well. But bacon, people want just kind of the old-fashioned, bacon. And we were explaining this to the class. You brought up uncured bacon. The USDA definition, standard of definition for cured bacon is that it has nitrates, nitrites, and preservatives in it. So if it's uncured, or if it does not have those ingredients in it, you have to call it uncured. So you have to actually label it a little differently than you would have to a regular cured bacon.
This morning, Jimmy, the fellow teacher this morning, Dr. Hogg, he was saying that there is a type of bacon out there now that they're saying it's nitrate-free, but yet they're using like celery salt.
Yeah.
Which has 6 to 10 times the amount of nitrate. So it's just this like semantics thing, what you're really looking for.
Well, if you want a natural product, though, would you rather eat something that has artificial chemicals in it or something that's naturally derived like celery?
Right.
To me, it's a, and we do the same thing. I mean, it's not playing games, but you find in order to get any shelf life on something, so if you're taking a turkey, for instance, a turkey breast, it's all natural, so you can't put any preservatives in it. You can't put any artificial coloring or flavoring in it because then it wouldn't be natural anymore. And you do something like that, and then you package it in a refrigerated shelf life on something like that, you're going to get 20 days, 25 days, which isn't much. So you've got to find something else that's a natural additive that you can put in there that'll give you more shelf life. And I can't even think of what that is in our natural turkeys. But basically, the game is then to find something that's natural that you can add into that to still kind of get the properties that you need, so that when we do that, now you can get 45 days of shelf life, which is a lot more workable, and now we can do something with it. Because we're shipping our product from Osceola, Iowa, and Dayton, Ohio, to the entire country. So by the time it gets harvested, cooked, packaged, into one of our distribution centers and then out to the customer, and the customer not even being the end user, the person who actually uses it, it takes time to do that, so you need shelf life on something in order to be able to do it. Because anytime you take a deli meat and freeze it, that's not a good thing, because then it's got extra stuff added into it, it's got water pumped into it, it's got flavorings pumped into it. You take it, you freeze it, and then you thaw it out. All that water that's in it is going to come out. And now the product's going to taste mealy and spongy. It's not going to be number one quality. So that's a little bit of a tangent, but on the natural stuff, that kind of tells you what the game is.
And you'll see shelf life played more, into when you're dealing with restaurants and more of the food service industry and casinos and stuff like that, because they'll buy such large quantities at one time, they don't want anything to go to waste. And it kind of off that subject, these are what we call fire braised ribs. They're pre-cooked rib already. Can anyone guess what the shelf life is in the freezer on these? 6 months. A year. So these are good for a year in the freezer, which is something you don't think about, when you go to a grocery store and you buy it because you're buying it for that week or that 2 weeks that you're going to cook it. But when you're in that restaurant industry, or the casino, when you're buying for large bulks at one time, that is something that plays nice. Sliced meats we have that are good for 4 months in the fridge, which is amazing. So you're not, throwing away product and ruining your food costs and stuff like that. So going off that subject, this right here is going to be your ham. So for Mother's Day coming up, or for Easter, when you guys sit down for that ham and that glazed ham, that spiral cut, this is where that piece of meat is going to come from. This right here, this fat cap off the top off the top of this. Does anyone know what this is used for? This is what's used for sausage trimming. So when you guys eat sausages, this is what you're eating. Just kind of, interesting. Every part of the hog we're going to use so we don't throw away, so we can gain the most profit from the animal.
Can you tell really quick what the Koreans do? That special part is what I will take away from this life.
I'll let Brad handle that part.
They'll be interested in that.
I just moved here from LA, and we had a guy out there from Korea, an exporter, importer into Korea, and he used to call and ask us for bungs. They'll take the bung, the intestine, the back part of it, and it's washed and sanitized, and they use that for a sausage casing. So there's a lot of products or a lot of parts of the pig that are used in other parts of the world that we wouldn't do anything with here. And we had nothing for him because they're all sold into international
markets.
So, yeah.
So
That's awesome. Everything we talked about, that's what you're going to remember.
you did say rectums.
So everything from
Rectums,
intestines
bungs.
to rectums,
Just the G-rated version.
every part of the pig that we want to eat, we ship overseas and they use in certain ways.
Everything but this.
To tail concept.
Yeah.
But you're not finding that Americans are restaurants or food service here are really trying to be, that sustainable with the pig.
I think they are. I think they're moving towards that. In fact, at lunchtime I was having a conversation with one of my sales reps, and he works with a lot of high-end restaurants in Denver, and he said he's got chefs that are bringing in whole hogs, not live, but they've been eviscerated and their guts are taken out, but the head's still on, the tail's still on, and they try and use the entire thing, which is kind of an old-fashioned way of doing things. Maybe in the 30s, 40s, 50s, people used to do stuff like that. Hotels used to have butcher shops attached to them where they'd bring in half hogs like this and cut it all up. They'd have a bandsaw. They'd do all the cutting themselves and do everything. And nowadays, you never see those anymore. Maybe at like a Ritz-Carlton or a Four Seasons, you might see something like that, but it really hasn't. And that's kind of what you're talking about, is kind of going back to that style. I think it's becoming a little more prevalent, but I don't think you'd call it mainstream to where most people aren't doing it. And that's good for us, because the reason why we're employed is to, generally, we're not the cheapest. Like if you have this product here, which is basically a commodity, meaning we're making a couple pennies a pound on this, and you take this and you compare it with Seaboard Farms and with Farmland and with Excel, all of our big national competitors, Smithfield, the difference between ours and theirs is going to be pretty small. The workmanship's probably a little better on ours. The fat cap's trimmed a little tighter, maybe a little bit, but there's not a lot to determine or distinguish between this and the next and the next. But when you take something like this, and this line is brand new, fire braced, this goes through a tunnel and it's fire seared, then it's sealed in the package and cooked sous vide, basically with hot water around the package right here, cooked inside of this package. Nobody else is doing that. That's ours. Not saying anybody else won't, because they'll probably knock us off, but these are the kind of products where we really make our living, and that's why we're employed to go out and sell these, show them to customers, point out the differences, and get them to pay $5 a pound for this when they could buy a rack of, where did the St. Louis go? They could buy a rack of St. Louis, for $2.70 a pound. But there's definite reasons why a customer would want to use this as opposed to something like that.
Yeah.
They're kind of yucky.
Oh, are they?
Well, yeah, I've been, yeah.
So in layman's terms, you know how you go to a bookstore and you don't know how to, you want to learn about stocks, you learn about the internet. There's those internet for dummies. We're kind of, the meat salesman for dummies. We help them understand, why they should buy a value-added product and how that will help them in their restaurant by saving them time on cooking, a raw product and losing yield loss. Save them on labor so they don't have to hire as many people, or that inconsistency that they're experiencing in the back of the kitchen from, someone calling in sick one day, so maybe someone else has to go back and cook. So we're in there to make their job easier so they can, spend their time making certain sauces, having a better plate appearance, running, front of house and stuff like that.
A really good chef can duplicate this process, but it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. Most people can't do it. I mean, a really good chef could do this. But basically, like Max said, I mean, we've taken all the guesswork out of it for them. This product's ready to go. Basically, you cut it out of the package, heat it, put a sauce on it, serve it. It's done and ready to go. So that's kind of why we're employed, to point out these differences and sell these products versus a commodity. We would like it if, we sell these parts just like they are. We would like it if we sold none of this, though, because the more we process something, the more we cut it up and cut things away from it or cook it or cure it, the more money that we make on it, the higher the margins go. So we would like to sell no commodities if we didn't have to. But we've got 40,000 hogs coming at us every day, so you have to sell some.
Would you say the majority of your business is the value-added product?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's what Hormel was built around is value-added product, and that's why they have us out on the street, compared to giving our product to a broker who sells, 600 or 6,000 different products. We're focused on what we stock at that distributor and, the professionals and know everything about it.
My goal for this year is 3.5 million pounds of branded products. So that's this, the ham, the bacon, even this kind of counts. 3.5 million pounds is my goal this year. And then I'll do about another 1 million of commodity type stuff. So that, and it would be great if it was all 4.5 million of branded and none commodity. They don't even incentivize us on commodity. Like I could sell 10 truckloads of this today. It'd give me zero. I wouldn't get anything out of it because it's commodity. We take this, bone-in commodity skin-on pork butt. We sell this for about 94 cents a pound, like I said, 93, something like that. We might make a penny on it, a penny a pound. So we're not making much money on that. But that, like I said, once you trim it, you debone it, and then we use all that stuff for sausage and pepperoni and dry salami and stuff like that. Now we're getting $1.30 for this. We're making maybe 10 cents on this profit as opposed to a penny over here. Kind of going off on tangents, but telling you guys what we do. So,
any questions going off that, or we can start talking about the ham? No? All right, so like I was saying, this is going to be where your main, majority of hams come from. There are 5 main muscles in the ham: knuckle, your flank, and your cushion. And going off those 3, for a supreme ham, like an all-natural ham or top-of-the-line ham, like our Cure 81, which has been around for 50 years, kind of like the Cadillac of hams, if you guys want to know. So that's something you're going to see, on an Easter or a special occasion. That's going to be, the 2-muscle ham, all natural, not a lot of water added. So when you pay for that at a store, you'll see Cure 81s at the store, or, at a high-end restaurant, you know what you're paying for. It's going to be a very clean product, no preservatives, very, very straightforward ingredient statement. Compared to a ham like this, a Black Forest ham, which is not a natural product. It's going to have, 3 muscles in it, more of a formed ham and stuff like that. This is a Black Forest, more like you see at Subway, kind of just a bulk ham that you'll put on a sandwich or something like that. So there is a lot of variety in hams, from like a chunked and formed ham, which is like our version of a menu master, which sometimes you'll kind of see like at a Golden Corral, like a buffet ham, where they're just slicing off and handing out large quantities, to a Cure 81, which is the Cadillac ham, which is something you'd want to buy for a special occasion, for a Mother's Day brunch, and so on. So that's where all this meat is going to come from. And those 5 muscles, the other 2 muscles that I didn't mention were the butt tender and the inner shank cone. So those 5 muscles are what's going to make up a ham. And then just depending on the consistency and the level of quality you want in a ham is how you're going to choose what muscles to put into a ham.
So imagine taking that and turning it into this. You've lost a lot of weight because you got skin and bone. Take the bone out. There's a bone that runs all the way through this, a leg bone. And this is what you come down with right at the end. And then obviously anything that's trimmed off, again, would be ground up we're making breakfast sausage, pepperoni, Genoa salami, hard salami, all kinds of different things with it.
Prosciutto's going to come from that as well.
Yep. Prosciutto is an Italian-style dry-cured ham. The prosciutto weighs less in the package than it did when it was on the animal. And I don't know how deep you want to get into the labeling of it, but you can tell the quality level a lot by the labeling of it. This one says ham water added. It goes from natural juice, which is our Cure 81 that he's been talking about, up to water added, then to a ham and water product. So if you're looking at, even in a grocery store, if it says ham and water product on it, it's kind of the lowest end product. If it says natural juice, it's higher end, less added ingredients. Kind of think of it like water's cheaper than meat. So the more water we add into something, the less expensive it is for the consumer, but the lower quality level it is too.
And that's something you'll see, like if you ever go to like a deli and you look in their window case and they have like it's called a cooked ham. It's really, really pink. Like it's called a 4x6 cooked ham. That's going to be your lowest quality, really chunked in form, all 5 muscles, water added. So you can tell in an appearance, if you were to look at a Cure 81 or a Black Forest ham like this, and something where it's just a square and it's just pink, that's not going to look as appealing, as something like this. So appearance in a ham, you can tell a lot also by the quality of it as well. And then something you guys will notice, ham is really making a comeback, or pork in general, especially with the health craze right now and all these kind of diets and Weight Watchers going on. Interesting fact is, for Weight Watchers, the way some people do it, is they have 20 points a day to go off of. And take, for instance, if you were to do a serving of bacon, 3 slices in the morning, that's 10 out of your 20 points already, which is huge when you're determining what you can eat that day for all 3 meals, compared to if you were to have like a slice of ham or 3 slices of ham in the morning, that's only 3 or 4 points of your daily, allotted points. So it is making a big difference, especially with beef prices on the rise. So next time you guys go out to eat, just kind of notice that. I'm sure you'll see it. More ham, center of the plate items and stuff like that.
Didn't prosciutto used to be illegal in the United States?
I don't
You
know.
say so.
I thought I heard that, so I was wondering how you guys make it.
Not in the last several years.
Yeah. No,
We've
always-
been making it for a long time.
Yeah.
As far as being illegal, not since I've been working for the company, but prosciutto, a prosciutto di Parma, which is made in Parma, Italy, the Parma region of Italy, that actually is in the smokehouse for a year. So that's why if you ever go to a really nice deli and you want to buy an imported prosciutto, it's like $18, $20 a pound, something like that, because it takes a long time to make that, and obviously time is money. So, and then like I said too, a prosciutto is going to weigh less than a green ham, what we call a green ham that just came off the hog. The prosciutto is actually going to weigh less in the package or in the store than it does on the animal here, so you're losing weight. Plus, it takes a year to cure. We make ours. Hormel makes prosciutto, and it's not bad. But it's domestic, meaning it's made in the United States. Ours is only aged for about 6 months, so it's a little more wet. Hasn't been as dried as long as a prosciutto di Parma, but it's a lot less money too. Our prosciuttos are $5.50, $6 a pound, and a prosciutto di Parma, that deli's probably paying $14 or $15 a pound, and then selling it for $18 or $19 or something like that.
Are you finding that a lot of restaurants are getting whole yams and then making their own sausages and prosciuttos? Does that happen more frequently than purchasing it from you?
No, that's something you might see, like you mentioned, in a higher end place. But mostly, a lot of places will either buy it in more of a bulk form or a slice, just because it's consistent. They know kind of how much each slice is going to weigh when they're making a sandwich and stuff like that.
Very few. I mean, if you've got a really high-end restaurant that you can charge $60 or $70 for a meal, they might be doing something like that. But in your basic restaurant, they don't have the time or the expertise, the talent, the equipment. We do sell. Sometimes we'll take these and we'll bone them out, open up the muscles and trim the interior fat too, and then put it back together. We'll sell it as a ham roast, and basically then it's got no cure in it. There's no pickle or anything. There's no smoke added to it. But then they can take it and they can add whatever they like to it, or put dry herbs or put a crust on the outside of it or whatever and cook it themselves. You might see that a little bit. But as far as somebody bringing in this and making a ham from it, not very often.
Does anyone ever or have any family that's ever worked kind of like a Hormel or a farmland food service side, or kind of know anything about what we do in terms of how we get our product to market and kind of our daily routine? Or has anyone ever thought about going into food sales itself? No?
Well, my background, as I shared this morning, is restaurant management, and I'm happy to be in sales. I'll say that about restaurant management. It's a tough business. It's either a young or a person that just has a great passion for it and they love doing it, because it never sleeps. I mean, you're operating 7 days a week, 365 usually. It's a tough business, tough way to make a buck.
We'll kind of give you a background of us and kind of how we got into the food industry, and then we can kind of, if you guys have any questions and want to know our daily routine or kind of what it's like in our shoes, I graduated from Arizona State University a little over a year ago, majored in marketing and management. Never thought I'd work in the food industry. Always worked kind of more real estate and sports throughout college and stuff like that, and was at a career fair, and Hormel was there. I was like, oh, I know Spam, and I know all. They're a successful company, so I started talking to them, and I found my way into this industry. I will say Hormel is a great company to work for. Out of all the food sales, companies and stuff like that, it has a great reputation. Number 3 training program in the country, just overall for no matter what company. So they know what they're doing. They've been around for over 100 years. Really cool, innovative company to work for. You always see something new. Really diverse. We just bought Skippy peanut butter, which is kind of cool. So now we're going to be going out and selling peanut butter, which I don't know how you sell peanut butter besides having someone taste it. But really cool, some new products coming out. Hoping for peanut butter covered bacon one day to be selling or something like that. I'm sure people would buy it.
That would be awesome.
So write some comments and maybe that will get in there one day. But we own Lloyd's Barbecue. We own Jenny O. We own Country Crock. We own Chi-Chi's Mexican. So it's not just a pork company. We own, I think, 13 subsidiaries of different companies we own. So it's really diverse, really something cool. If you don't like pork, you can always work for turkey or other forms of food.
I'm a couple years older than Max, and like I said, I worked in the restaurant business before Hormel. But I've been with Hormel almost 15 years now. So, yeah, good company, good job.
Not sure if we have them
I don't know.
here.
Have to ask Gibson.
Yeah. We will, though. We'll have our business cards at the end. So if anyone has any questions on how to break into it or, just any questions at all when it comes to the food service industry, we've seen kind of insights and out from, the dirtiest kitchens to the nicest kitchens and worked with chefs, that go to France and Paris and all over for conventions and stuff like that. So it's really cool. If you love food, it's an awesome, I'm not selling the company on you or anything, but there's always more doors than just, working in a restaurant and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool to know the ins and outs from this perspective if you ever make it into that.
It's reality, too, though. You guys are going to be out in the industry soon enough, and we might walk in the door. Hey, try a Austin Blues or a Fire Braised St. Louis rib, Could happen. So,
not many companies save you on grocery bills either. So I haven't bought meat at a grocery store in over a year. And of course, whenever you go to a friend's party, hey, we're having a barbecue, want to bring over some ribs or hot dogs and stuff like that. So it's always kind of cool to, to have all this different stuff in your bag and, pull it out up your sleeve, oh, I'll bring you some bacon one morning or something like that. I will tell you, it's a great way to meet people. You can say I'm a pork peddler. Not many people, when you meet them, oh, I sell insurance. I peddle pork for a living. I go out there and sell meat. So it's a really diverse field. It's a lot of fun. Does anyone have any questions in terms of what we do? We sell all the Hormel brands.
We
So-
sell whatever they tell us to sell,
Yeah.
pretty much.
But we sell anything that comes from a pig. In terms of that, Genio is Hormel owns Genio and Country Crock, but it's not under Hormel's like actual line that we'll go out and sell to the restaurant. So we'll sell a lot of pig products. We do have a couple chicken and a couple like roast beef and stuff like that. And then peanut butter is just brought on, so we'll be selling peanut butter, but it's not too extensive on, how much peanut butter we sell and stuff like that.
But we have probably 1,000 products we can sell, because there's 20 different bacons, and then there's 3 different slice counts of each bacon. So you've got, 60 different products, 60 different SKUs, we call them, different product numbers. We've got a small roast beef company, so we do like deli roast beef, the turkey that we talked about a little bit, and then all these lines that we're doing now, like fire braised. We do an Austin Blues line, which is fully cooked barbecue, Saucy Blues, which is sauced, fully cooked barbecue, Lloyd's. There's a lot of different things that we have. Peanut butter just kind of got thrown at us, so we'll see how that goes.
Does anyone work in a restaurant right now? And do you guys ever see, vendors or kind of people like us that come in and try to sell, the chef something or anything along those lines? Or ever worked with us, particularly yourselves? Have you guys ever been introduced to us? Okay.
Tender belly.
Should buy Hormel.
Tender belly's a local competitor. Not that. All right. Anything else?
Any questions at all? Favorite color? Anything? You guys just kind of ready for the day
We
to
put
be
some
over?
information. I don't know if you guys have looked through your packet, but we actually own a pig farm in Colorado. So that's pretty cool. I was down there a couple weeks ago checking it out. Pretty neat.
I'm sure everybody has one of those packets just in case. Those questions are pulled from, and we'll go from there.
If you guys have any questions or at the end, want to see any of the products or
Come on up.
business cards for any questions, just feel free to come down here and stuff like that. We appreciate you guys having us.
Thank you.
Thanks.